Hey, what's up, Triple P Nation? This week's episode is brought to you by Triple P Life Nutrition, helping you optimize your health and performance.
Welcome
to the age of awakening.
Please identify yourself. Enter.
Hey, Triple P Nation, welcome back to the podcast. Where this week, we're going to explore the tools, tactics, and strategies to help you achieve personal and business mastery. Because this mission of the podcast is to help people like you who want to grow in the four key areas of life: mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially, so you can start living what we call your Triple P life, which is all about empowering your dreams, igniting your passion, and accelerating your prosperity. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me this week. And every week, it's always a pleasure to be behind this mic and to offer a little bit of wisdom, give you a little insight from my experiences of over 35 years. Oh God, that sounds old. In business, in health, and entrepreneurship. I've done a lot of things, made a lot of mistakes, done some things right. And this show is about people who really want to grasp as much as they can to make this life as fulfilling as they possibly can. And that's all about pursuing growth. It's also always about learning how can we become better in every aspect of our life, because there's only two directions in life, guys. We're either moving forward towards evolution, or we're devolving into decay and eventually to death. And so I don't know about you, but I prefer the former and not the latter. So as long as I'm on this planet, the longer I am taking nourishment and God puts energy in this body, I'm going to be constantly pursuing expanding my mind, expanding my body, expanding my knowledge, everything I can. I know you guys listen to this show because that's what you want to do as well too. So let me start off this week with, of course, our success snack. And this week it's about business. It's about my 1-2-1 rule. 1-2-1 rule, Jay. What is that? Well, as you know, I just opened my 19th business, Revitalizing Health and Hormones. Really excited about that. In fact, I'm going to do a whole show on that coming up here in the short-term future. But I've had the chance to lead lots of people. I've had the chance to hire and fire countless people. And then I taught other people how to do it, and we created our own department and so on and so forth. And so it was out of my hands. But here's what I learned is culture is everything when it comes to success of your business. Your business will rise and fall, not only on leadership, but leadership and culture within your business. If your culture is dynamic, if your culture is one that empowers each individual to rise to the very best, guess what? How you treat your employees is how your employees treat your customers. So I created this culture of no problems, only solutions. And that means is that, look, I'm not a Pollyannish guy. I know things happen. I know obstacles occur. I know challenges happen. I know things break and whatever, right? However, the way we approach it and the mindset we have with it is very, very different. And so when things occur, what we encourage our team to do is before they bring it to their manager or team leader, and before it goes up the food chain, ultimately to me, if it's that level of problem, an individual is welcome to share whatever challenge that they're facing. However, before they do so, they also need to consider solutions. So what's the 1-2-1 rule? Okay, so the first one is, what's the issue? Let's really dial in specifically, what is the issue? And not a lot of extraneous stuff here that don't really pertain to the issue at hand. So let's really dial down on what's the specific issue that we need to address. Number two is, before we address it, you already have to have two potential options at hand that you've already thought of that can solve the problem. Number three, the second one, is what's your number one recommendation based on the two solutions that you brought to solve this problem? So one is the issue, two are potential options to solve the issue. And the second one is, what's your number one recommendation? Now, that gets everyone thinking in a solution-driven mindset. There are no problems, there are only solutions. And here's the reality. Every problem that already exists, solutions already exist for each and every one of those problems. There is no new problems. There's only solutions to those problems. So try the 1-2-1 rule in your business and watch and see how it transforms your culture and creates a culture of problem solvers. Okay, so this week is part 2 of the series I started last week, of course, which is what are some of the biggest challenges facing entrepreneurs today? And what does the business climate look like over the next 12 to 18 months? Again, we are in a political season. We're being promised everything but, rainbows and unicorns and gumdrops. And I'm sure that'll happen too before the election occurs. But here's the reality. There are market forces and changes that are occurring right now to you that's affecting your business. That's either going to determine how high you can rise or what kind of suppressive power there's going to be that's going to limit your growth. Now, ultimately, I believe your business will rise based on you. So yes, there could be market constraints that may restrict you, that may put pressure on you. But I do believe ultimately any one of us can elevate above and beyond that and not use regulatory changes, economic factors, labor market, whatever it might be, as an excuse to say, you know what, we just can't do as well as we would like to do because of all these other factors. And the fact is, the more you do that, the more you give into external forces, not that they aren't real, but you use that as an excuse of why you can't grow, you're toast. You have to accept full responsibility and figure out a way to be nimble and to work around those things and find solutions, guys, right? If we're going to be a culture of solution people, it's got to start with us. But nonetheless, they're real. And I have observed in my years coaching with and consulting with entrepreneurs is that we tend to be in the now, right? We need to deal with the issues that are at hand, right? Fires come out each and every day, and we got to put those fires out and before the next fire occurs. We're not thinking about next week, next month, next year, and we're not really planning ahead, and we're not seeing where the puck's going. We're only looking at it right in front of us. And the key is we need to see what's coming down the road so we can be adaptive and resilient ahead of time so we can be ahead of the market changes. That's how winners win. So I talked about last time the 10 common ones that are facing entrepreneurs. I'll go over those again. And the ones I covered last week, and if you haven't listened to that show, I would highly recommend going back and listening to that. I covered in depth how to increase your financial resources. I gave you 10 solutions for you to increase revenue in your business. I talked about how to deal with market competition, how to rise above market competition to set yourself apart. So there is no competition, right? The only competition a winner has is with themselves. And the third thing I covered last week is how you can be more competitive in the marketplace. So go back and check out last week's episode. We started with those 3. I'm going to take a moment, remind you of the 10 that I discussed. And then this week, we're going to talk about resource, right? What are some of the resources that may be limited to your accessibility or putting constraints on you and your business and how to work around those? And then we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, guys. The second topic I'm going to talk about today is talent acquisition and retention, because I hear this all the time. Jay, you just don't know. There's no one out there. I know what the marketplace is, but I don't believe that. I don't accept that as truth. There's talented people everywhere. There's amazing people. I'm a believer that there's so many incredible people in the world. There really are. That when we're in a good place, when we're resonating at a high level, when we're vibrating at a high level, when our energy's good, when our vision's clear, when we're passionate about what we're doing, we naturally draw people to us. If you're constantly attracting low energy, unengaged people who are just looking to cash a paycheck, I really believe a lot of that has to do with us. We have to elevate our game. We have to elevate our HRT game, our higher recruiting and training game. And it starts with leadership. So I'll get into that here as well today. So again, let me take a minute. Let me go back to the 10 that I mentioned on the first episode. And so you can see the main topics that I'm really focusing on here. So the first one I talked about was limited financial resources. And again, I gave you 10 steps how to overcome that. We talked about market competition. I discussed that. And I also talked about resource constraints, or I will be today, resource constraints. And that's really when, as small businesses, right, we have less people and technology compared to larger companies. And of course, this can restrict or hinder our productivity or innovation, and also can prevent us from scaling. So this makes it difficult to compete effectively and to meet customer demands as demands change and evolve over time. So the fourth one is regulatory burdens. I'm not covering this because this is unique to each industry. You need to know what regulations are coming down the road or currently exist for your business, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're a financial planner, you're running a barber shop, a small engine repair, a restaurant, whatever it may be. You've got to be able to navigate the complex web of regulations and compliance requirements that are going to vary for you, your industry, and where you live. So keeping up with the legal obligations and regulatory changes, I understand they're time consuming and they're costly, but it's your responsibility. You should have a very, very good business attorney who is adept at understanding and knowing this stuff and will go to work for you to keep you compliant and out of jail. That's always a good thing. All right, number 5 is talent acquisition, which we'll be talking about at length today. Number 6 is technology adoption and integration. This is another one I will not be touching again because it's individualized, but this is embracing new technologies. We've been doing this for our healthcare providers over the last 2 years, and man, has this revolutionized their practices. In many ways, it's allowed them the flexibility to reduce staff volume at the same time to increase their revenue streams. That is competitive in the marketplace, but more importantly, that's an alignment with their business and practice philosophy that ultimately helps the patient get better. That always has to be the bottom line. Does the service I'm providing help the patient achieve the goals that they want? So we know, right? Limited IT expertise. I'm not an IT guy. And when you're in a small business, going out and finding these people can be tough and it's expensive. Holy smokes, is it expensive? But again, it's the cost of doing business. You got to do it. We're going to talk about marketing and branding. That's the next episode. Number 8 is cash flow management, which also we will be talking about on next week's episode. Number 9 is customer acquisition and retention. I believe we're covering that too next week. And then 10 is adaptability and resiliency, which is really at the heart of entrepreneurship. As a small business owner, guys, you got to be flexible. You got to be agile. You got to be resilient. You got to be able to navigate the marketplace. You got to be able to navigate the economic changes and fluctuations, right? You can't compete on price. You got to compete on value. I hear people say, things are getting expensive, so I cut my fees because people can't afford it. And I'm saying you can cut, but eventually you're going to cut yourself out of business. I like a different approach. And the different approach is, how do you create more value? That your services and your products become non-negotiable. People can't even imagine not being a part of your business and working with you. So you got to be willing to adapt. You got to be willing to evolve to the circumstances that are occurring. And again, we can sit here and bitch and moan and complain about the inflation. I went over that a little bit again last week's show. We can blame the administration and the lousy policies. And you know what? A lot of blame needs to fall at their feet. And then they gaslight you and then they tell you that everything's hunky-dory when you and I both know, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, or just a consumer, that it's absolute bullshit. It's not about you. I'm tired of being, gaslit. But here's what I do know. I'm not willing to listen to this bozo or these clowns. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take action myself, get ahead of it, get informed, become intelligent, make sure I surround myself with the right people who can help me navigate through this so I can be successful, because it's going to change, guys. I guarantee it. It's going to change and it's going to get better. So if you can get through this now and prepare yourself and put yourself in the right position, you're going to be in a good place really to succeed wildly, I believe, in the next 2 to 3 years, because that's where I see the change happening. So, okay. So let's get into the 2 specific categories we're going to cover today. I talked about resource constraints, right? So dealing with resource constraints is really a very common challenge I've dealt with in my businesses because, if you don't have effective strategies that you can employ to overcome the limitations, you're going to be really difficult to achieve the kind of success that you desire. So I want to go over the 7 best strategies that I've learned to overcome resource constraints. The first one that I learned is prioritize and focus. So as an entrepreneur, you got to identify the most critical needs and priorities for your business. And then you got to focus those resources on addressing them first. So by prioritizing initiatives that's going to have the greatest impact on your business goals, you can allocate the limited resources you may have more effectively and maximize your return on investment. So if your cash flow resources is somewhat limited, so maybe investing in new technology, maybe a better CRM that can cut your staff by, 10% or 20%. I don't know how large your staff is, can pay for itself and then some by also increasing productivity of the people that you already have. Or if your resources are limited, but you can invest in a technology that's going to enhance how you deliver your product and service and do it more effectively, that you can charge more prices, that resource, that limited resource is well worth investing because the ROI, the money you're going to get back, may be 4, 5, 8, 10 times what it costs to invest in that. So you've got to sit down. You got to have a plan. You got to look at it. Okay, here's the resources I have to invest. What makes the most sense and what is consuming the greatest amount of my resources that I'm getting very little return on? So you can do this individually, do it collectively with your team, but either way, you got to do it because I'm guarantee you in any business, your business, there are things that are consuming resources at a sucking sound that if you had addressed it could be a big boon for your bottom line. Okay, number 2 is you got to bootstrap and minimize your expenses. Now, I mentioned in the first episode last week, you can't cut your way to growth. I need to emphasize that. Again, sometimes when I talk to entrepreneurs, should I just cut my expenses? And I said, sure, if they're not needed or they're wasteful or there's very little ROI, let's see how we can minimize or eliminate those unnecessary expenses. But you will never grow and you will never scale through cutting expenses. What we want to do is look for ways to reduce your overhead cost. Maybe negotiate better lease deals. Maybe negotiate with your suppliers and find more creative solutions to save money without compromising quality or your customer experience. Maybe we can negotiate with our bank for better interest rates on business loans. Wait, Jay, you can negotiate with the bank to get better interest rates? Yeah, guys, you can. Honestly, I learned this about 10 years ago. And if you've got a history with a bank or a banker and you say, you know what, we're really working on reducing our expenses, what can you do? Can you cut 0.25%? Can you cut 0.75%? And believe me, they have flexibility. If you're a really good customer and they like you, they're willing to play ball with you. And believe me, 1/4, 1/2, 0.75% over a 5 or 10 year period of time is significant money. So bootstrapping involves funding, right? Funding the business you could use your own personal savings if you need to increase and invest in your business to scale. Revenue generated early from your sales or low-cost financing options that don't necessarily rely on external funding is ways also to minimize your expenses. But that's an individual thing, right? I've financed and bankrolled my entire new business, but now once we get started, we'll do a line of credit to maintain overhead, and then we'll pay that back over a period of time. So it's really up to the individual and what you're comfortable in doing. Number 3 is one of my favorites, and that's outsourcing and delegating. You want to leverage external resources and expertise by outsourcing really non-core functions or essentials. And you want to task those to maybe freelancers or contractors or specialized service providers. By delegating responsibilities, that fall to outside your core competencies, you can free up so much time and so much of your resources so you can focus on the activities that you're good at, especially good, that's going to drive growth and value in your businesses. I've often said entrepreneurs, right? We try to be all things for everyone in our businesses. And of course, we have to when we first start. We're wearing a million hats, right? We're the janitor, we're the maintenance person, we're delivering the service, we're selling the product, right? We're doing the billing, we're doing the AR, we're doing the, customer schedule, whatever it might, we're doing it all. And there's only so much bandwidth where you can do that before eventually you have to start, if you're going to grow, or you're going to survive, or more importantly, you're going to thrive, you got to build your team out and you got to start delegating those things out. And I said for entrepreneurs, if you're really serious about growing, you got to look for those 2 to 3 things that are your superpowers, that you're so exceptional at that no one can replace you. And that's what you need to focus on doing. Maybe it's client acquisition, maybe it's closing, maybe it's communication, but identify those 2 or 3 core competencies that you are just absolutely exceptional at, and do those things 80% of your time and watch your business just absolutely explode. Okay, number 4 is strategic partnerships and then collaborating. So I want you to think about forming strategic partnerships. We did this with some businesses in our local community that I know that are in alignment. And we create these joint ventures or alliances that become like industry partners. And this allows us to leverage complementary strengths and resources, utilizing each other's resources. And by pulling those resources, this allows us to share some core cost and core promote. This collaboration it's a wonderful way for small businesses to access new markets and to expand our reach so we can compete more effectively with some of the larger competitors. So look for alliances in your community that have similar values that you can collaborate with back and forth to expand into new markets and new customer bases. Number 5 is I want you to think about embracing technology and automation. Think about investing in technology and solutions and automation tools to streamline your business and your process. So this is going to increase efficiency. At the same time, it's going to reduce your manual workload, because as an entrepreneur, let's face it, when you first start, there's really not a whole lot of balance in life. And if you're going to get some of that balance in life, be able to enjoy time with your family, take time off, you've got to look for ways to reduce your manual workload. By leveraging technology, guys, to automate repetitive tasks, to manage workflows, and to improve productivity, you as a small business owner can accomplish more with fewer resources, and then it'll allow you to scale your operations more effectively. So look for technologies in your industry, particularly ones that automate. Number 6 is I want you to think about focusing on customer retention and referrals. Prioritizing customer satisfaction and loyalty is going to drive repeat business. I hear a lot of times in healthcare, I need new patients, I need new patients, I need new patients. And then I ask, well, how many inactive files do you have? And there's thousands. Like, you don't have a new patient problem, you have a retention problem. And it's really what it comes down to. If half those people were active, you wouldn't have any room to take on new patients. Now, I love new patients, I love new business, but we've got to have a balance in our approach to maintaining and make sure that our retention rate is high. And there's a whole strategy to do so while we're still marketing for new lead generation and new patients. Because here's the deal. Happy customers are way more likely to become repeat buyers, and they're going to recommend your business to other people. So do you survey them? Do you ask them for a net promoter score on a scale of 1 to 10? How likely are you to refer to our business? And if it's not a 9 or 10, they're not going to do it, or at least they're very reluctant to do it. So a 9 or 10 is your raving fans. They're like, man, I love this. This is a great product, great service. You're awesome. 9 or 10s are telling people all the time. If they're 7 or 8s, they've had a good experience, but not nearly enough that they feel like they have to go out and proselytize for you. They're just not going to do it. They might hear a friend talk about, and they say, well, go check out my doc. And if it's under a 7, forget it. They're not referring, and probably don't want those people to refer anyway because they haven't been happy with your experience. So I want you to think about investing in building very strong relationships with existing people that are already know you, like you, and trust you. Always think about how you can provide exceptional service. That's the whole concept. And solicit as much feedback as you possibly can, because the more you have, the more you can continue to enhance your customer experience. So, number 7 for dealing with resource constraints is continuous learning and adaptation. I want you to think about embracing a mindset of non-stop learning. So, one of the core values in my businesses is constant, never ending personal and professional growth, from the last in the door to the first in the door. In other words, to the owner of the business to the most recent hire. If you're not willing to participate, if you're not willing to accept that, you can't stay. Because if you have a team of 10 and you have 8 people who are committed to that and 2 are not, those 2 are going to hold everyone else back. Now, it doesn't mean they need to, be reading all of John Maxwell's book, all 88 of them, but they need to be doing something each and every day to empower their mind with something new that's going to help expand their thoughts, eliminate the limited beliefs, improve their knowledge base. So this is a big key for me, and it's a big core value, and it has to be something that each and every one is committed to doing. I also want you to make sure you stay informed about any industry trends that are emerging or new technologies that are coming out. I want you to think about being competitive in a sense that you'll be willing to pivot your strategy or your approach to your customers as you see new opportunities that may help you overcome the current challenges that you might be experiencing, right? There's a lot of ways to solve a problem. Sometimes we need to take an oblique look at it and not always come from it from the same perspective that we have. That's why getting outside influence or outside guidance to help you see and navigate through something that perhaps you can't see. Because when we're in it, sometimes it's really hard. We just can't figure it out. So those are the 7 things I want you to think about for dealing with resource constraints. Now, the next one, which of course everyone wants to know, is how do we deal with talent acquisition or retention? I mean, it's essential. If we're going to build a really good business, if we're going to have a motivated team that's going to be driven by success, we got to have great people on our team. So here are 7 effective strategies that I've used over the years that I think will help you. In fact, I know will help you. So here's the first thing I want you to think about. Number 1 is I want you to create an appealing brand. So let me ask you this question. What is your brand? If you can't answer it like immediately, you don't have it dialed in. And if you don't have it dialed in, how can you attract people to your business? Who are you, and what is it that you do, and what makes you unique and different than everyone else? This is what's called a value proposition. Maybe I'll do an episode on this. If you don't know your value proposition, you're going to have a very difficult time communicating who you are, what you do, and why it is what you do. I love Simon Sinek's video, Why. It used to be, I don't know if it still is, the number 1 watched video on YouTube. It's about a 17-minute video. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend going do so. He goes, in business, right? Every business knows what they do. Almost all businesses know how it is what they do, but very few businesses know why it is what they do, and even less can communicate why it is what they do. And the thing is, what differentiates you from everyone else is your why. Why do you do what you do? That's your differentiation. And if you can't communicate it in simple languaging, you're not going to be able to attract a tribe. You're not going to be able to promote a brand. You see, it's your why that creates your tribe. People who will know, like, and trust you based on who it is you are and what it is and why it is that you do what you do. And the more concise and clear you're on it, I'm telling you, the bigger the business you will have. So if you've been floundering and struggling, think about it. What's your why? What's your brand? And if you can't just go, oh, it's blah, 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 right? It's something we need to step back and we need to redefine. I just had a company reach out to me. We're going to be working with them. Just finished with another company previously on this very similar thing. We're stripping it down. We're going back to the basics, the 4 cores: core purpose, core mission, core values, core beliefs, and then the value prop, right? They're expanding, they're growing. So as they've done, it's become watered down as more people come on board. right? It just becomes a collection of human beings, right? Not a drive force of people moving in the same direction based on the same vision, the same why. So I want you to create an appealing brand. Number two is I want you to offer competitive compensation and benefits. You probably say I already do, and maybe you do. That's awesome. Now, while many small business entrepreneurs may not always be able to match the salary, certainly not, right, of the larger corporations, it really is essential, though, to provide as competitive compensation package and benefits that you can to attract and retain top talent. I will tell you this, if you've got really exceptional talent, they're worth their weight in gold. Not just, I mean, I'm talking, in a figurative sense, of course. I mean, these are human beings and we want to love on them and, show them appreciation. But the cost to replace them, if you can even find someone to replace them, is astronomical. So if you got a nugget on your team, do whatever you can to find out what motivates them. Here's the thing. In a study done by the Harvard School of Business, I believe it was 11 out of the top 14 motivating factors for people when it comes to a job was finances, was money. So and I think that was the millennial generation. So yes, money's important, but what really drove them, the top three, was the vision of the company, was the leadership team, and does the business have a purpose and does it align with me? In other words, if I get up each and every day, I can't wait to get there because this is something I passionately believe in. That's why the top thing I just mentioned to you, the why, is so critical, because that's literally what attracts people to you. And then if you have a competitive salary and package, then they're more likely going to want to work with you. Here's the deal. I've had super, super, super talented people who are worth way more on the open market than what we could pay them based on our business model. But they stayed for over a decade, 15 years, 16 years. Why? Not because they weren't willing or couldn't go out and get a better wage. They couldn't imagine leaving and not being part of the mission and the vision that we had. So they were willing to take less compensation because they believed in the mission. That's why this stuff is so important. It's also important to find out what motivates your employees. Not everyone's motivated by the same thing. Some people are motivated by time off. Some people are motivated by gifts. Some people are motivated by, a variety of things like flexible work schedule, personal development. We used to send our teams to seminars and wellness programs. So find out what motivates your people and then build a package around that for them. Number three is think about investing in employee development training. This is a big thing for me. I did a lot of employee development and training. I believe when they saw how much I was willing to invest in them, I found that they were willing to invest in us. It created a level of loyalty with our employees. And so I used to do something every week. We used to do quarterly staff trainings. And not the kind of ones where it's just like, you want to blow your brains out because it's just so absolutely over the top boring. And then we would take them on trips and go away for the weekend and go to some great conferences. And they absolutely love it. Great team building too, by the way. So look for training and development opportunities so you can help your employees build and enhance their skills so they can grow professionally, right? Constant, never ending personal improvement and professional. This is going to help them advance their careers. Now, one caveat. As they grow, someone going to leave you because of their growth. Here's the difference. Prior to doing this, when employees used to leave, they'd leave crying because they hated being there. When we took the time and showed how much we cared and invested in their growth, and they grew and they outgrew us and they wanted to maybe go on and start their own business, when they would leave, they would cry because of the gratitude and the opportunity and the connection, the relationships we made. So really important. Okay, number 4, I want you to think about promoting a positive work environment. Duh, who doesn't want to do that? But I'm telling you, not a lot of work environments are. They are oppressive. They're catty. They're not empowering. The way that people motivate is through fear and manipulation. They're not problem solving cultures. They're focused totally on problems. Everything's a problem. So fostering this work environment really starts with your values, because your values define who you are. And your values create a level of inclusivity. When you hire somebody, are they on board? Do they resonate with your values? Will they collaborate from a value standpoint? You want to encourage as much as you can, as much communication and feedback loop as you can. You want to recognize people. Look for ways each and every day to compliment or acknowledge your people. Look for ways to make them feel appreciated. Again, early on in my career, I was a tyrannical leader. Do what I say. What do you mean you need praise? This is what I hired for you. Shut up and do your work. Now, I didn't say that. That's what was going on in my mind. But again, revolving door, people left faster than we can hire them. And it had no other reason to do than me. And then I learned, I grew, started implementing. So each day I would do the Oreo cookie, right? If there was something that I needed to address, I'd always compliment first. And I say, hey, you know what? Make note, I want to discuss topic A next time we get together for our staff training. And then I would leave them the second part of the cookie, right? The second part of the chocolate side of the Oreo cookie is that I really appreciate you. Thank you for serving so well today. We had a great time. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Leave people better off than they were before they were with you. Okay, next one is prioritize. And in many cases, again, right, generationally, this prioritization is a work-life balance. Again, find out what motivates people. You want to recognize the importance of family. I'm a family person. I love my family. I love being around them. I love spending time together. And so I'm going to prioritize my time with them. I serve on boards. There is nothing I will do that will get in the way of my family time, whether it's a sports game or a I'm sorry, it's my family time. This is my highest priority in life. This is where I will spend my time. I'll forego everything else. And I'll tell them, look, I'm sorry, this is family time. I cannot be there. And I'm sure if that is for me, it's that way for a lot of people too. So I want to encourage that. I want to encourage them to have a healthy balance between their professional and their personal life. I want them to have time to exercise, to work on their body. I want them to have time to work on their mindset, right? I want to teach them the empowering mindset skills necessary so they can be happier, less stress. I want to talk about remote work options if that's a possibility in your business. I want to be generous with time off within reason, to have policies that accommodate each and every one of them based on their individual needs and then responsibilities that they might have outside work. They have a child playing ball and it's a game, by all means, let's figure out how we can get you there so you can be there for your son or daughter. I'm all for that. And then second to the last one here is I want you to think about finding opportunities for advancement. Now, in small businesses is harder, you know what I mean? Because the level of advancement is very difficult or different, I should say, than in large corporations. Totally get it. But think about ways that you can create pathways for some sort of career advancement and growth in your organization. And sometimes it's learning new skill sets that makes them more valuable within the business. And therefore, the more valuable they are to you, right, the better compensation they can get. Maybe they step into management role in somehow, way, or shape, or form. Look for opportunities for each of your employees to take on new additional responsibilities. That's how you build them up. That's how you empower them, right? Task them with things that pushes them outside their comfort zone. Teach them how to develop their leadership skills so they can progress in their careers, through promotions and then, basically to enhance themselves in the marketplace. And then finally, I want you to build strong employer-employee relationships. I'm big on this. I like to lead from the heart, okay? Not as a pushover, but I want to know my people. I like knowing about them, their family, what their interests are, what their greatest ambitions are, maybe what some of their fears are. How can I help you? How can I be someone that can support you? How can I be someone that can help you achieve the things that you want? And that's all through cultivating strong relationships. This is based on some basic values, right? It's building trust. It's building transparency. It's being respectful, support. So we've got to take time. We've got to step back. We got to listen to feedback. We got to address their concerns, not minimize it. And then we got to be involved to a degree in helping them in the decision-making process that's going to affect their work. Now, again, depending on the size of your entrepreneurial or your business, whether you have 2 employees or 50 employees, right? There's going to be different levels of that. But, someone said to me, how do you define a small business? Small business is revenue from $1 to $40 million. Anything above that is considered a larger business. And I think it's 200 employees or less. So take that for what it's worth. So don't forget about showing appreciation. Acknowledge them for their contributions. And I want you to demonstrate your commitment to their ongoing growth and well-being. And you're going to have an incredible, incredible work environment. So those are the 2 from today. We talked about talent acquisition. We talked about retention. And then we talked about resource constraints and dealing with those things. So this kind of wraps up episode number 2 on the 10 things you need to be thinking about and concerns for entrepreneurs over the next 12 to 18 months. Next week, we'll wrap it up. But I want to thank you guys for joining me this week. And again, I want to thank you for joining me on YouTube. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Please do so. Comment down below. You have questions about this, you want to go into more depth, email me, drjay at TriplePLife, drjay at TriplePLife. I answer all your emails, and I love having those conversations. And it's a real privilege and honor to be behind the mic here, having this conversation here with you today. So as I always finish each show, you be you, just be the best you. And I promise you will always empower your dreams, ignite your passion, and accelerate your prosperity. Until next week, guys, be well.